Hi, my name is Amanda Panacea, and you're listening to the Healer Revolution podcast. This is a community for self-healers, biohackers, practitioners, and any other helping professionals. You're in the right place if you're seeking conversations about how pain becomes passion, the connection between physical, energetic, mental, and our spiritual self, finding your body's ancient wisdom, the latest biohacking technologies, clinical research, and if you just want to nerd out about complex biochemistry and quantum physics. But this is also for entrepreneurs who seek infinite abundance and a supportive community. So pour a cup of King coffee or Sisters tea and let's join the revolution. Welcome back to the Healer Revolution podcast. I'm Amanda Panacea, and today I am so excited by our guest, Mario Brainović. He is the CEO of New Earth Technologies, and today's conversation is one that touches on something that seems so simple, but is actually one of the deepest foundations of health, and that is water, and also a topic that many people are confused about. As someone who works with highly sensitive, complex chronic illness, nervous system symptoms, and mitochondrial dysfunction, I am always talking about hydration, but true hydration is so much deeper than just drinking more water. It's about how the water behaves in the body, how our mitochondria are able to make cellular exclusion zone water, how that water carries information, and how it creates a terrain for actual healing. When I started diving into Mario's work and he was discussing some of this published research behind Analemma wand, I was honestly so blown away, not just by what it can do for human health, but the larger implications for agriculture, soil regeneration, animals, and the environment as a whole. The idea that coherent structured water can help restore vitality back into our depleted soil and, more importantly, improve the quality of food that we grow is just so incredible. Because healing people and healing the planet are really never separate conversations. So I'm really excited for this, for you guys to hear this conversation, because I think it opens people's minds to a much bigger picture of what bioenergetics and how healing actually works, especially if you are someone that seems to be a little bit more sensitive. And his company was so generous to give me a discount on the Analemma wand. If you use the code Healer Revolution, all one word, it should give you a good discount. So I'm ready for you to hear this incredible conversation. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Healer Revolution podcast. I am your host, Amanda Panacea, and today I'm incredibly excited to get to sit down with Mario Brainović, sorry. Hi, Mario. Thank you so much for joining today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm always super excited to talk about this because most people kind of don't really realize what water is. Most people don't realize that there are magical worlds in it. I really it's really a phenomenal, incredible topic.
Yes, yes. And I'm super excited because you are far an expert in this topic and have an amazing company that has brought to us Analemma wand, which we'll get into. But I'd love to hear how you even found yourself in this niche of water and understanding the complexities here. What is your story of how you got into it?
Well, I was always super passionate about health and wellness. I always knew that our bodies were created perfectly. I always knew that there is this incredible self-repair system inside of our bodies that works awesome if we optimize it, if we kind of. So my whole passion was to assist this natural process in powerful ways. This all led me. I opened a natural pharmaceutical company which I ran for years, and I brought really incredible natural medicines which helped thousands and thousands and thousands of people. And it was a super gratifying thing to do because, when you bring people to health, I don't really think that there is kind of anything better than that. The only thing I would say, if you expand someone's consciousness and if you make somebody feel better, that's like the best thing you can do with your life. So I did that for many years, and after a while, I realized that it was time to move on. So I sold the entire project to Walgreens, And I was kind of thinking, I want to immerse myself into something that is for the highest good of people, highest good of plants, highest good of animals, and the highest good of the planet, of the environment. It was a very, very tall order, but as universe would have it, I got introduced to Dr. Eric Larker, who is the inventor of Analemma water. And immediately I fell in love with it because when you really see the effects of the water in the right kind of state does on basically any biological system, you just can't stand on the sidelines. I just jumped in, and since I had a lot of experience in the pharmaceutical world in doing clinical trials, I actually brought that whole thing to the project with the designing of the studies, with the clinical testing, and we tested this, as I mentioned, on humans, on animals, on plants, and there are phenomenal environmental effects as well of this water.
Hmm.
So it's a really an extraordinary story.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit more about this water. What makes it different than the water we get in a glass or in a bottle?
So we realized in our research, just so you know, this whole project is 18 years now in the making, 50 plus scientists over 3 continents working on it. So we realized in our research that water currently exists in what we call a chaotic state. So it's still H2O, but H2O molecules, they move randomly. They're crashing into each other constantly. But since all of this is happening on an atomic level, nobody's really aware of that. Yet there is this other state that water can exist in. Colloquially speaking, what happens is that those same chaotic H2O molecules start joining hands and they enter into a liquid crystalline state. So water enters into state of unison with itself. There are these coherent fields that start to appear within water. When water enters into that state, its true power is being unleashed. When I kind of explain this to people, I like to use Dr. Eric Larker actually used this analogy, and I like to share it with people because it's pretty kind of it tells the story. For instance, if you take a light bulb that has 5 watts, it will give you some light. But for instance, if you take a 5 watt laser, so it has the same power, you can drill a hole through your table with that laser. And that's a form of structured, of focused, of coherent light. This is very, very, very similar to that.
Yeah. Okay. So is this what we are considering structured water? Like that word gets thrown around,
Yeah,
or is
there
this
is.
different?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's interesting. You have the Dr. Gerald Pollack who came
Hmm.
with easy water, exclusion zone water, which is a form of structured water. But in our
Hmm.
research, Dr. Gerald is a dear friend of our whole project, and we collaborate with him. And interestingly, this water is completely different
Oh,
than.
okay.
So this again tells you that there is something extraordinary about water that we don't
Yeah.
really realize. That there are really magical. Just when you look at it, it can be in gaseous state, in liquid state, in hard state. In Dr. Gerald Pollack proved that there is this gel-like state, which is
Hmm.
a exclusion zone-like state. So there are many ways water can exist in the world. So, as I mentioned, it's truly magical.
Okay, yeah. So that's what I'm familiar with is that exclusion zone water in our body that our mitochondria make as it's going through cellular respiration. And so this liquid crystalline, how this explain your experiments more. This exists outside of the body. You're creating this somehow?
Yes, we're creating this. So,
Okay. Yeah.
very early on, we actually picked up a whole lab from the famous German scientist, Dr. Fritz Albert Popp. He actually
Hmm.
developed this technology that can capture biophotons. So, every living thing exudes these tiny particles of light. The more a light a biological system exudes, the more vitality it has. So, early on, we had a huge greenhouse in the Netherlands where we did various experiments with the plant. And we realized when we brought water into this extraordinary state. We did tests where we kind of watered plants with regular water. Let's say tomatoes. We grew a lot of tomatoes at that time. So tomatoes that were grown with regular water and tomatoes that were grown with Analemma water, and we tested biophoton emissions. And tomatoes that were grown with Analemma water, they have up to 200% more biophotons. They exude up to 200% more light. All that energy, all that light ends up in your body when you eat those tomatoes. So it really is phenomenal that such a little change, the water you use to water the plant, has such a dramatic effect on plants biology.
Wow. Okay. So in turn, when we're using that for us, when we're drinking this water, we would also have those same benefits. Would that also translate into making more of that exclusion zone water in our own metabolism?
Yeah, that's the whole idea. I mean, now we can maybe jump into human studies that we did.
Yes.
So we were thinking, since this water is an electromagnetic phenomenon, and we can touch upon that a bit later, we were thinking, what's the most electromagnetic part of human biology that we can very accurately measure? So it's our brainwaves. And
Mhm.
what we did, we actually did a gold standard test. We took two genetically identical twins and we did a double blind experiment. We put QEEG equipment on their heads and we monitored their brainwave patterns in real time. And what we did, we just gave them a glass of water to drink. Doctor administering the water didn't know which one was which, and twins didn't know which one was which. We just gave them two glasses of water to drink. One was an lemon water, the other one was regular water. So the twin that took a couple of sips of regular water, as you would expect, we saw zero change in brainwave patterns. Literally everything stayed exactly the same. But interestingly, almost as soon as the twin that took a couple of sips of NLM water, we were really surprised how fast it happened. There was an almost instant better connection between the left and the right hemisphere of the brain, an almost instant harmonizing effect on the brainwave patterns. And not only that, there is this thing called delta coherence that actually appeared, which usually happens when people either meditate or they use psychedelics. So it was really, this was the first powerful and irrefutable evidence that something biologically remarkable happens when people drink this water. We repeated the experiment 3 weeks later and we gave an lemon water to the other twin. And we saw exactly the same phenomenon. That's why it's a golden standard. When you have two genetically identical twins, you're going to, if something works, then it works. And we saw exactly the same phenomenon with the other twin, while now the first twin took a couple of sips of regular water and we saw nothing. So this was really powerful evidence that something happens and really fast because it was almost instant.
Mhm.
So it really has, and we kind of tested EMFs. We did a lot of things afterwards, but let's not even divert there. Mhm.
Yeah, okay. Wow, that's pretty incredible. I think my audience is very familiar with brainwaves. I teach a lot about like getting into a theta state and delta when you're asleep or meditating. So we can kind of make the subconscious veil a little bit thinner and we can access parts of us that maybe we've suppressed or kind of compartmentalized. So that's really fascinating. And then, yeah, I use a type of testing called bioenergetic testing. So this type of testing is one of those frequency-based types of testing where your like hair and saliva, or you don't even need a sample, you could just do it from afar. And it's essentially like testing for interference or resonance, and it's asking like hundreds and hundreds of thousands of questions at once. And so, yeah, I think my audience will be very familiar with like biophotons and how that all works and the effect that like just changing your state or having a different kind of water can affect everything downstream.
Yeah, I believe actually this is something that we haven't touched, which is really also interesting in terms of water. You know, we've
Mhm.
learned in school that we're 70% of our body mass is water. And
Yeah.
even when you visualize that, even from that perspective, that's like almost two-thirds of you is water. But when you look at it from the molecular side, 99% of all of our molecules are actually water molecules. We only have 1% molecules that are heavy molecules other than water. If you can imagine, we're more water than the ocean. Ocean has 97% water molecules.
Oh, wow.
This off the bat tells you there is something pretty crucial and important that kind of we didn't kind of figure out, we didn't understand about water.
Mhm.
And I really believe that consciousness marries form through water because water
Mhm.
holds memory. And all of our experiences, all of our past, everything exists in the water as a medium. So there is
Absolutely.
a great connection between the consciousness and water.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm one of my courses I teach about Veda Austin's work. I'm sure
Oh, I
you're
love.
pretty
Oh,
familiar. Yeah.
I'm a huge fan of Veda.
Yeah.
They actually tested on one of her workshops. They actually used Analemma, and the beautiful crystals appeared in it. So, but Veda is just extraordinary. I mean, she's one of the
Mhm.
pioneers in bringing people the extraordinary magical worlds of water. So,
Right.
I'm in awe of her, and I'm super grateful for her work.
Yeah, and such a beautiful example of how your thoughts become your biology and how every cell in your body is listening to you. And that water is essentially mirroring exactly who you think that you are and the identity that you've assumed, and also how easy it can be to shift that too, to feel
Exactly.
differently about your life, to think differently about who you are, to take action in different directions that may be difficult or a change for you.
I,
And yeah, go ahead.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, Nikola Tesla, one of the, I would say, greatest scientists of all time, he said, if you want to know the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. And
Mhm.
why is water at the very heart of it? Because water is a broadband absorber, receiver, and transmitter of energy, frequency, and vibration. And since 99% of our molecules are water, this water clearly teaches us why we should be kind to one another. Because when you send beautiful energy, when you send blessings, when you send love and joy and bliss and happiness to another person, th- they're water. Water is who they are. Very clever H2O. 99% of our molecules of water, they absorb that energy. So when you truly become aware of that, becoming or being kind becomes a responsibility. How you're showing up in the world becomes a responsibility because you know that you are literally changing other people's biology by the way you treat them.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Yeah. And also
Mm.
your own, right? If you're moving through the
Of
world
course,
and you're hating other people, frustrated and angry, that your biology is going to be affected, so is theirs. The energy is undeniable. I always tell people who are kind of non-believers, you can tell when you walk into a room if two people have been fighting or if they've been making out, like just by their body language, the energy in the room. You don't need to believe that like this woo-woo type of testing that I use works. You already know like the energy that you feel is accurate. Um, yeah.
I mean, I'm just going to say we've tested this water. We did short term, mid-term, long term. We tested ATP level, cellular energy, double-blind placebo-controlled studies, microbiome, double-blind placebo-controlled studies, NAD
Uh,
levels, double-blind placebo-controlled studies, and we'll go into all of this. But since I really honor and respect that you understand the frequency, the vibration. The whole world that's behind it, and this is the world that runs basically everything. That's why I will say to you why I believe this water is extraordinary. Because of all of
mhm.
these reasons, of course, but where the biggest benefit is. This is at least how I feel about it.
Yeah.
Early on, we did a test on, we took seeds. Seeds, this tiny, extraordinarily simple form of life. And what we did, we watered some with regular water and some with Analemma water, and we monitored the biophoton emissions to see whether something would change. Seeds that were watered with regular water, we really saw nothing really happening. But almost as soon as we started to water seeds with Analemma water, we started seeing these sinusoidal shapes, these peaks and valleys of biophoton emission. And it was in a very long form. So we couldn't realize why, what was happening here. We couldn't figure out. We actually connected to other scientists so that we figure out what happened. Why is this actually happening? It's really biologically remarkable.
Hmm.
And then after a while, we realized it started to follow the tides.
Wow.
So Analemma water connected this tiny, tiny piece of life to the circadian rhythm of nature. It
That's fascinating.
connected it electromagnetically to its larger electromagnetic environment. And you can imagine what it will do to us.
Yes, and today's a full moon also. So, and the lunar eclipse. And I worked in psychiatric hospitals for like 7 years, and the full moons, without a doubt, were always the most insane and always extremely busy. And so it's really incredible how like we are mostly water, the water that's inside of us can affect how we feel, who we are, but also we have these magnificent forces like the moon and the tides and things like that that are also influencing us. And like you just pointed out, all of life is influenced by this. It's pretty wild.
To be in connected, so we realize that Analemma water not only connects you within yourself,
Hmm.
so you're more connected to yourself. You're connected to your relevant electromagnetic environment. You're literally connected to the earth. You're moving with the earth. You're no longer a separate entity, which
Yeah.
I believe is hugely important in this time that we are living in. Because I would say planet Earth is awakening. It's actually moving into a direction, let's call it that way. And we can either move with it and flow with it, so to speak, or we can stay separate. So just this effect, at least for me, is the most important benefit of this water. Of course, there are numerous, and we're going to go into all of the health benefits of drinking this water. There are really a lot, no
Yeah.
questions about it. But this, so that you're connected to the earth, to the planet, to the universe, so to speak, electromagnetically, you are one with it. You're no longer separate. I think it's so precious.
Yeah. Anything to get us more connected. We're so disconnected these days.
Yeah, totally.
So let's backtrack. Let's explain, if you could explain, what is analemma water?
Yeah.
Is it, yeah.
Yeah. Interestingly, as I mentioned, we realized in our research that I'm gonna kind of explain how we came to this point.
Mhm.
So we realized that water always picks up the most dominant frequency of its environment, always.
Mhm.
And when we realized that, our whole quest was to create the most positive dominant frequency water there is. Because we knew if we would expose any other water to it, since water always picks up the most dominant frequency of its environment, all the water would become exactly like it.
Mm.
So we created what we now call the mother water. And we actually put it in a, maybe I can show this. So I can show directly. So this is the wand. So this is a crystal vial which is filled
Mhm.
with the mother water. So
Mm.
in an effect, when you take, so this crystal vial has two purposes, of course, to create the barrier between the mother water inside and the other water. And more importantly, since it's a crystal, it's a superconductor. It allows the frequency of mother water to pass through without any loss. We tried
Mhm.
different materials and we saw that this works by far the best. So when you submerge the wand in water and you start swirling, any chaotic H2O molecule that comes into close proximity to the mother water starts to mimic its exact structure. So, in an effect, after 30 seconds of swirling, you get a glass of mother water. And
Mm.
when you drink it, then you have all of these effects. And as I mentioned, we did a lot of double-blind, placebo-controlled studies, which definitively prove that there is something truly remarkable with our biology when you drink this water.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So it seems very simple. And before we get into the studies, let's
Mhm.
talk about like what water can you use? So do you need to have already filtered water? Do you want to use RO water? Do you want to use mineral rich water? Does it matter?
It really doesn't. But I thank you that you said this because most people, when they think about water, they just go for the filtration.
Yeah.
And that's awesome. You need to take the toxins out. But the problem is, as I mentioned, water always picks up the most dominant frequency of its environment. Even if you take the toxin out, the frequency of that toxin still exists
Mm,
in the water. And when you drink it, we're vibrational beings. You're picking up that frequency even though you're completely unaware and you think, well, I took the toxin out. But
yeah.
this is where an lemon water comes in. It kind of creates a clean slate. It puts the water in its optimum natural state where it's really working awesomely well with your entire biology. So any, let's say, lesser frequencies are being canceled out. So I would say if you use filtered water, any kind of water, if it's a liquid and it has H2O molecules, so it can be a juice, it can be whatever you're, it can be wine, it can be beer, whatever you're
Oh,
drinking,
okay.
you can use on it and it will actually bring water molecules in that liquid into a liquid crystalline state.
Okay, interesting. So you can use it with other liquids.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's milk even, like it doesn't
No, you
matter.
can. If it has H2O molecules, you can. And interestingly, it's a
Yeah,
funny,
okay.
funny story that we
Hmm.
kind of brought where we used it on wine. And
Uh-huh.
interestingly, there are some sommeliers which are really top class, and they said that Analemma can bring cheap wine into a much higher category because it improves the taste profile, which was really hilarious when we looked at it.
Okay, interesting. And so when you're swirling it, it's more about the frequency. Is it so it's structuring it as well, correct?
That's it. Water
Yeah.
enters, as I mentioned, this same chaotic H2O molecules, colloquially
Mhm.
speaking, they start joining hands and they enter, the water enters into a state of unison. There are these coherent fields that start to emerge within the water. And then water enters into it. And interestingly, there are several other ways, kind of, we tested almost all of them. There are vortexing, magnets, crystals, various forms where water gets organized in a
Yeah.
certain way. But we tested almost all of them, and it does actually do something. So the water enters into a particular state, but it lasts anywhere between a couple of minutes and day and a half. Then water
Mm.
molecules break and water goes back into chaos. With Analemma, it's not like that. It actually, we tested now for 8 consecutive years, I believe. After just one treatment, water never goes back to chaos.
Oh,
And we
wow.
actually did various things that usually put water into chaos. And it never actually, even when the molecules broke, when we radiated it with 5G close range, what happened that the water molecules broke, but when we left it alone, it remembered its highest previous state and it came back, which was really remarkable. And when we measured when I mentioned now EMFs, we were actually we were the first scientists that proved that EMF causes detrimental effect on our brainwave patterns. And actually, Analemma water, we also did that. If you just drink, we actually did it. We kept several people using their cell phones, and we put QEEG equipment on their heads. We monitored their brainwave patterns. Every single person that used cell phone for 3 minutes, there was a detrimental effect on their brainwaves. Every single one. And then we gave Analemma water to some and regular water to some, and wanted to see what's going to happen. And the guys that drank regular water, there was zero effect. This detrimental effect actually lasted over an hour, while almost as soon as the participants in the study that drank analemma water, Again, almost instant better connection between the left and right hemisphere of the brain, and almost instant complete harmonizing effect on the brain waves. In a very short period of time, brainwave patterns go to green.
Wow. It's almost like we're supposed to be drinking this type of water. Do you feel like this is like what all
Yeah,
water used to be like?
exactly. That's why we believe that Mother Earth is the hidden voice
Hmm.
of this project, because due to, I don't know, EMFs, environmental toxins, I don't know what the reasons, but water is so essential, and it was really out of whack, and
Hmm.
we needed something to bring it back into harmony so we can bring our bodies, our minds, our spirits back into its natural state.
Yeah, it really sounds like, okay, this would make sense that all water used to be like this. And now we
W-
have polluted and destroyed it and
Yeah,
reverse
we
osmosis, ozone. We've done so many things to it that it's no
Mhm.
longer the water we once used. And I work with a lot of people who will drink RO water, and I often will be like, we've got to get you off of that. Even if you're adding minerals, like we go back to spring water, see if you feel a little bit different. Structure it like with some of the techniques you've already mentioned. Now Analemma water will be on top of my list for recommending, like, see if you feel different with this.
totally, and I have to. We actually did this. We tested water samples from all over the
Mhm.
planet, and I we actually found water in nature in that particular state. But it
I
was
bet.
somewhere really far away from any form of civilization. And interestingly, as soon as you take it out of the well, not as soon, but in a very short period of time, water
Mhm.
molecules break and water goes back to chaos. So
Mm.
obviously, it was important in this time and age, especially due to EMFs and everything, that we have very, very stable form of water that exists in the state nature intended water to be.
Yeah, that makes sense. Awesome. Okay, so let's get into some of these cool studies. So you've talked about cell phone use, EMFs. You mentioned ATP. How are you measuring the output of ATP
Ah, that's
after
super
drinking the
cool.
water?
Yeah, that's super cool. So we wanted kind of we were finding ways. We wanted to test ATP, adenosine triphosphate, the primary energy currency of the cell, directly responsible for powering the majority of cellular processes inside of our body, including muscle contraction, nerve impulse transmission, biochemical reactions, basically every heartbeat, every breath, every cognitive function heavily depends on ATP. So having high levels of ATP is crucial. What we did a double-blind, placebo-controlled study where we measured ATP levels. We deployed luciferase, which is an enzyme that catalyzes light production in bioluminescent organisms, and due to its extraordinary sensitivity, you can very, very accurately measure ATP levels in humans. So this was the study protocol that we used because it's very scientifically established.
Mhm.
We actually took snapshot, quote unquote, of ATP levels in participants of the study before the study started. Then participants drank a liter and a half of an lemon water per day without changing anything else in their world. They didn't change their exercise regime. They didn't change their diets. They didn't take any supplements. Everything was very structured so that we have the most accurate results. And then after 2 months, we took another snapshot to see whether something changed. And what we saw was 20% rise in overall mitochondrial energy of the body over the placebo. And we're
Wow.
not talking about, so there is more than significant rise. And we're not talking about Red Bull energy here. We're talking about actual cellular energy of your body. If you give your body a couple of percent energy more in a stable and consistent way, it will do wonders for you. If you give it 20%, that's something entirely different. And people usually equate ATP with endurance, with athletic performance. And of course, there is a direct correlation there. So if you have high ATP levels, there is no fatigue in horizon. You're really powerful and strong. But what most people don't know is that The biggest spender of ATP is actually our brain.
Yeah.
25% of the ATP inside of our body goes just to feed the brain. For one neuron to send an impulse to a neighboring cell, it needs to hydrolyze 1 billion ATP molecules, and there are billions of neurons. So just by sitting in your living room the whole day, 25% of all of your energy will just go to feed the brain. And of course, if you have high ATP levels, it's very well established that people with high ATP levels have much higher cognitive performance as well, not just physical.
Absolutely. And what did these people say improved? Like, what were the noticeable differences that they found?
I mean, we didn't, I have to just say, we didn't measure, we didn't do the survey afterwards. So I can't really say, but we're receiving thousands and thousands and thousands of letters from people all over the planet and emails, like all of the changes that people start experiencing from the day one onwards.
Mhm.
But yeah, in
Okay.
that particular study, we didn't do a survey. Maybe we could have. Then it would be kind of cool. So did we receive like, okay, I started to feel this and that. But there are, I'm telling you, there are so many effects, which are really, some of those are really kind of crazy.
Yeah. Okay. Tell us about another study that was mind blowing.
So we did NAD study, which I really love because in the last couple of years there was a whole rise of the awareness of NAD. NAD is a cellular fountain of youth, and it's not only connected to longer lifespan, which it is, but to a longer health span, which is hugely, hugely important. So it's not only connected to cellular energy production, and it is very much connected to cellular energy production. It has powerful effects. It actually activates sirtuins, which are these enzymes which repair damaged DNA. And this is why we're actually getting sick. If we have a system which works beautifully, as I mentioned before, our bodies are created perfect. And if we can trigger those little systems, then every single system inside of our body works much, much, much better. NAD is a very, it's a very, at the very heart of that. So, cardiovascular benefits, metabolic benefits, since it enhances mitochondrial function, it improves insulin sensitivity. It has phenomenal effects there. It lowers inflammation. It actually lowers oxidative stress, and these are the two key drivers of all degenerative diseases that we have in life. And finally, it actually interacts with genes that regulate circadian rhythm, so it actually restores restful sleep. So basically, with high NAD levels, you're going to have phenomenal effect on every single system in the body. We did the same thing, double-blind, placebo-controlled study, where we took a snapshot of NAD levels in people at the beginning. Then we took at the end. Again, people didn't change anything else in the world. They didn't change their diets, exercise regime, supplements. Everything stayed the same. The only thing that they changed is they drank 1.5 liters of lemon water per day. That's the only thing. And we had more than significant rise in NAD levels at the end. So it's really a systemic change. I would say once you change the water that you drink, the most fundamental level of our existence, basically the whole biology changes.
Yeah, it sounds like it. Yeah. I always, when I'm talking to people who are dealing with like chronic illness or complex health issues, mental health, I always want to go all the way upstream to cellular health and the nervous system. So, like how we think, feel, interact with
Mm.
like attachment relationships, and then the cell. So, things like minerals, NAD, how well are we making ATP? And water is the one of the inputs that the cell needs. The right kind of water is going to give you the right input, whereas um, a different kind of water may not give you the right input at all, or maybe a negative input. So it's one of those building blocks of like, we need minerals, we need light, we need safety, we need structured water. That's on the list of like, you have to have these things, or the downstream things you're chasing, like the liver detox, the whatever biohacking device, that's not going to do anything if you don't have these upstream inputs that are just basic for cellular wellness.
I couldn't agree more. If we handle the fundamentals of life, then everything else changes, and then you can make small tweaks, and they will have an
Hmm.
effect. But if you're not addressing the fundamentals, then whatever you do afterwards ain't gonna have like a too big of
Yeah.
an effect. So I agree with you.
Yeah. And then I work with a lot of women, men too, but mostly women who are really highly sensitive. And so they have a hard time like doing any sort of intervention, whether it's a supplement or maybe even a lifestyle change. And I always come back to water and like we have to start here. And I'll often have them do an imprint into water. So, like their own intention, a word, an affirmation, something they want to bring in. And I've heard people doing this with Analemma water too. Have you studied that at all, where you can kind of like add in your own little like flavor of what you're bringing in for the day or what you'd like to?
Totally, 100%. You know what I love about it? It can be like a ritual that you
Yeah.
just stop for a moment. You just use the analemma and you make the interaction between you and water conscious. And then you can literally introduce the intention that is highly specific to you. And when you drink that water, you are literally informing your system in the very powerful way of where you want your body, your life actually to go. Because we are
Mhm.
vibrational beings. Everything is vibrational. And when you can literally imprint, I love exactly what you said. You can literally imprint the water that you're drinking, and we are water,
Yeah.
also with that particular intention. And if you keep at it, if it's something that you're consistent with, you are going to have an effect.
Yeah. Beautiful.
Mhm.
So tell us, is there any other really cool studies?
Oh, yeah, of course. So,
Keep them coming. Keep them coming.
yeah,
This is
there are a lot.
fascinating.
We really did a lot. So, what we did, we actually wanted to test the effects on the microbiome. What I love
Oh
about the
yeah. Hmm.
microbiome, because there is a great connection between the state of microbiome and basically any area of health.
Hmm.
So, and literally any area of health. We like to think of ourselves as single species. Nothing could be further from the truth. I mean, we are living in symbiosis with trillions of these microorganisms. If you can imagine, there are up to 200 times more microbial genes than human genes inside a human body. So, keeping this equilibrium, this relationship in harmony, in oneness, is crucial. And the way we eat, and for so many other reasons, glyphosate, and there are really so many of effects which destroy our microbiome. Our kind of gut health is really not gut health. Every single area of health is really going downstream because of it. So what we did a double-blind, placebo-controlled study where we measured what is called dysbiosis index of the microbiome. Dysbiosis index measures the degree of deviation within the microbiome, taking into account all the different bacterial phyla species and their weighing factor. So again, double-blind, placebo-controlled. We took a snapshot of people's dysbiosis index of their microbiome. Then they drank a liter and a half of lemon water per day without changing anything else in their world. And afterwards, we saw 17% improvement on the dysbiosis index. But more importantly, we saw a decline in bad bacteria and improvement in positive bacteria, because we have to realize that there is nothing really bad. We need what we call bad bacteria. But the problem is if there is an overgrowth. So, what we need is an equilibrium. There is this whole process inside of our body, which is a creation and destruction. If we don't have both, our bodies are not functioning. And what we saw is that this water brings equilibrium. If something is too high, it brings it down. And what we saw, this is a drop in negative bacteria and the growth of positive ones. But now I have to share one study which is truly, truly, truly remarkable, which really blew our minds. So, since this water is created in the Netherlands, and Netherlands is agriculture country, and they're using so much glyphosate there that is really bad. And we actually took one piece of soil which was completely destroyed by various toxins used in agriculture, that it was completely barren. You couldn't grow anything when it was dead, literally. So what we did, we actually watered one part of it with regular water, one part with Analemma water, and we monitored what happens in the soil on the molecular level. As you would expect, the part that was watered with regular water, we saw zero change. Literally, it was still dead. You couldn't grow anything on it. But the part that was watered with Analemma water, we saw like explosions in biodiversity of the microbiome. There are colonies of bacteria that started to show up out of nowhere. And interestingly, the whole nitrogen cycle improved. The total nitrogen in soil improved dramatically. So much so that within only 2 months, that piece of soil became 100% fertile. Not only that, interestingly, usually when the rain falls, all of the minerals and nutrients go to deeper layer of the soil. But when you water the soil with an lemon water, there is a huge retainment of those nutrients at the top layer of the soil where the plant can actually use it. But this is where the environmental effect actually kicks in, which is really remarkable. All of these bacteria, all of these colonies, extraordinary colonies of bacteria, they started to suck CO2 out of the atmosphere and bring it into the soil where it belongs as a
That's
fuel.
insane.
I mean, literally insane. We were like, can you imagine the simpler, more elegant, more beautiful way to solve excess CO2 in the atmosphere? Just water the world with it, and
Uh,
the microbiome of the soil
that's
is
what
going
I'm
to
worried about. Yeah.
flourish. And not only that, anywhere where there is really hardcore agriculture, you just go there. Just water the crap, pardon my French, of all of the polluted soil, and you will bring it to life. We saw it. It's beyond palpable. It's not even subtle. Life explodes in the ground which was dead. So that was
Yeah.
really beautiful to observe. Just beautiful to see how, with this simple, really, really simple change, you can you can see the explosion of life where there was none. That was just beautiful to witness.
That makes me feel so happy because that's one of those things in the back of your head that you're kind of always worried about. Like we're destroying our soil. How, like having children, how are they going to survive? What are they going to do? We can't
Yeah.
get this back. And this is the first time I've ever heard of anything actually restoring that soil back to being able to grow and life and all of that. So wow. How do you, are you working on that, like part of the project, getting this kind of water to recover all of the
Yes.
damage that we've done? Okay, amazing.
That's
Yeah.
the whole plan. We want to change how food is grown on this planet.
Hmm.
Because there are so many elements which is just wrong. I mean, just glyphosate. When you all of the regularly. That's why I always say to people, and I'm pretty confident that you're saying this to your listeners: eat organic if you can. Because if you're not, you're continuously introducing micro amounts of glyphosate, which is an antibiotic, into your system. I mean, and there are, really differences between fruits and vegetables and vegetables. For instance, strawberry, they did a study on it in America. They took strawberries and they've just pressed them into juice. And there was so much glyphosate inside that you can use that juice to spray another quantity of plants.
Yeah.
And when you take all of this into your system, this antibiotic kills your microbiome and it kills your ability. I mean, and even to be happy, what people don't understand, for instance, everybody's heard about serotonin and why it's important, but most people don't know that 95% of all serotonin is being created in the gut.
Mhm.
And if your gut is not working optimally, it's not producing serotonin. And you can't really be happy with without serotonin.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the glyphosate is everywhere, even if you eat organic, but
I
even
know.
if you're on an
I agree with you.
island, you're going to get it in the rain.
No, no, I agree. I agree. It really is a huge problem, but at least
Yeah.
thankfully we have Analemma water, so we can at
Yeah.
least kind of help. But it would we are working so much on kind of at least educating, and it's one of the slowest moving industries you can imagine, agriculture.
Oh, I
It's so
bet.
hard to kind of to move them, and we invested. I haven't even I just mentioned one study. We did more than several ones where we proven that the resilience of plants to any form of stress increases dramatically when they're watered with analemma water. So,
Mhm.
and now we're living in weather extremes. So, either it's a drought or it's a flood or it's something. And if you're giving the proper nutrients, the proper energetic structure through water to the plant, then it becomes resilient and it won't wither down. It will still provide fruit, which we need at the end of the whole story. So we are trying to move this as fast as possible, but we just have to invest in more science, in more science, in more science, in
Yeah.
which we are doing, and then our whole mission statement of our company is to bring all the bodies of water on this planet back to a coherent state. We actually developed this eco-friendly technology that we want to install in the wells of the biggest rivers, and then all of the water down the stream would enter into this beautiful state and life would thrive. All
Yeah.
life would thrive and all that water would end up in the ocean. And in a very short period of time, all oceans would become coherent. And then we would have coherent planet. I mean, if you are in a state of coherence, you're in a state of oneness. And then it's inconceivable to you to hurt another human being or to hurt anything around you because you realize on the deepest possible level that we are all one. We are one being. And then, even the idea of confrontation kind of vanishes out of your mind. We become one world. This is our dream.
I love it. I teach this as well in my programs and with my clients. Like when you become the strongest frequency, other people around you change. So
Exactly.
the more authentic, the more in alignment with you, who you are, um, you don't have to keep fighting with all these people. Their roles will change when you change as well. And you see this in your life, in your relationships. When you do the work, and water sounds like exactly the same. Go figure. If we're mostly water.
Yeah, it's a perfect medium. We are, as I mentioned, consciousness that lives
Hmm.
in this world through water.
Yeah.
And water is a broadband absorber, receiver, and transmitter of energy frequency and vibration. So exactly like you mentioned it, if we hold the dominant frequency, the water teaches us that. If you
Hmm.
hold the dominant frequency, everyone around you, even with you, without you even saying a word, they get influenced by your frequency, by your vibration, by your state. And just like water molecules, I believe that it's natural in everyone to want to subconsciously move to a higher state. And
Hmm.
if you anchor that state, wherever you go, you're doing your work. It just happens automatically. It's effortless. It does not require anything. You're just being you. And that's basically it.
Yes, I couldn't agree more. So I have a question. So obviously, on a single person, you're stirring the water with the wand. How are you doing these large scale product projects? Like, do you?
Yeah,
Where does,
yeah,
yeah.
it's interesting. We actually the wand is the first application that we went out with.
Mhm.
Now we have inlay, which you actually just put it in the pitcher, so you don't even have to swirl. So you can structure or bring into coherent state larger quantities of water. Then we developed garden analemma. If people are growing their own food, they're going to have the best produce on the planet, and they can
Wow.
just put it on just adjust just add it to your hose. It's a very simple system, and you can just water your plants with that. Then we have a whole house system that you can install in the piping system of your house, and then you don't have to swirl anywhere you open the faucet, you get coherent water. But interestingly, this is where it gets interesting. We did another study which is super fascinating. Since 99% of all of our molecules of water, we were thinking, and water always picks up the most dominant frequency of its environment. We were thinking, what will happen if people would take bath in Analemma water? So that was a very intriguing question. So we connected Dr. Greg Lane, David Perez, my dear friend, in San Diego, since they have a system where they have equipment to measure various vitals. We did a 100 people study where we measured cardiac output, stroke volume, blood viscosity, and most importantly, heart rate variability, which is a really powerful indicator of overall health and wellness. So, to cut the long story short, every single person in the study, after just 20 minutes of taking a bath, had improvement in cardiac output, stroke volume, blood viscosity, and the minimum improvement we saw in heart rate variability, the minimum in HRV was 30%.
Wow.
Just
That's a big jump.
taking a bath
Yeah.
in water. I mean, like you really literally kind of you just took a bath. So it was really super. I mean, I just always like to tell people we keep our technology very affordable, and
Hmm.
it's intentionally so because we really want everyone to be able to have one and to have the benefit. And this is the thing I always like to say to people, because a whole house system is a bit pricier, is 2,500, but this is 199. And if you take care of it, if you treat it like a jewel and you don't break it because it's really delicate, you can
Hmm.
create coherent water for life. So you only need
Yeah.
once. You only need one wand for your entire family. And the other thing, if you want to use the benefits of taking a bath, you can again use this. How? You just open the faucet, put the wand underneath. Of course, you're going to have to wait for 15, 20 minutes until the bathtub is full. But if you can't afford the whole house system, just with this, you can get exactly the same benefit.
Yeah. Okay. Good to know. That was definitely another question. Can you use the small wand to stir like larger bodies like the bath? So you answered that. Perfect.
Yeah.
Um, what are some things that people have said, like testimonials that they have noticed? So like we've talked a lot about like the measurements and all that sounds amazing, but like what does that translate into? Do you have testimonials of like people healing diseases, or obviously you can't say like cause effect or cure or anything like that in holistic
That's the
medicine,
that's the
but
main thing I have to say, that we can't really talk about
yeah.
that because we were very kind of we were instructed to not go
Hmm.
there. We ourselves did some studies, but we just can't talk about
Hmm.
that. We just like, this is general health and wellness, and that's why we did studies on actually healthy people. We measured only the parameters that we can,
Yeah.
so that we can actually tell the story, that people can actually see that there is an extraordinary benefit there, but we
Yeah.
just kind of can't go into that whole side. We received a lot of letters from people having a lot of experiences, but again,
Yeah. I understand.
I can't talk about that.
I mean, even just HRV improving, I mean, it's taken me years to get mine from like 20 to 40s. And I can feel a noticeable difference in that amount. So I can only imagine what like long-term use and improved HRV alone, plus the mitochondria, plus better cellular wellness and AD levels, how much would shift there, like just feeling more regulated. And that's really what everyone wants, right? To feel better. They don't care about their markers. They just want to feel differently.
Exactly. You just want to feel, I would say, feel like yourself.
Hmm.
Because when you feel like yourself, you just even thoughts are not there. You're just being yourself. And
Yeah.
it's just, this is a state of deep ease. Like
Hmm.
you don't want to, this is how this is what I love. I love meditation as well, because it kind of grounds you to now. You know when that you're feeling really good when you don't want to go in the next moment. Like here is good.
Hmm.
I don't care. Nothing needs to happen next. I don't need to go anywhere. Like here now, I'm good. It's all good. This is like the best place to be.
Yes, I totally agree. And it's a challenge to get there.
Yeah, of course. I
Many,
mean,
many
yeah.
years of practice. And I still struggle with it, but I know exactly that feeling. I have felt it before. And to get there is to also say, like, this is okay. Like you're not in resistance to reality. You're not trying to fix something or change something. And I think that's the beauty of that state is like, oh, I am okay the way that I am right now. This is okay.
100%. And I would say I would recommend to people, as I mentioned, organic food. We already talked about a lot about water,
Oh
but I
yeah,
would say to people, meditate and breathe. If you're
absolutely.
doing deep breathing exercises, it just brings you down into your being so you can really experience life. Not as a life form, you literally experience life. And nothing could be more beautiful than that. Literally, I really don't, at least that's my experience. Like that experience when you're in touch with life inside of you. It's just,
Yeah,
it's,
that's the best.
yeah, yeah, you can't even explain it. It's so beautiful.
Yeah, I love that. I have one more question. Do you have any studies with fascia and the connective tissue?
No, we haven't actually, there are so many avenues to go. We always have to pick one to go. We actually did
Yeah.
a glycan age study, biological age study, where
Hmm.
I love the glycan age study because these guys are like leaders in glycoscience. They have over 120 published scientific work in that particular area. And what I love about it is they realize through the state of glycans, you can very, very accurately kind of determine what is your overall state. So it's age of your immune system through these pro and anti-inflammatory glycans. You can literally very accurately see what is the level of inflammation inside of your body. And they take all of this kind of together and they give you your biological age. So we did again, to cut the long story short, we did a study where people were we took their a glycan age score before, then they drank liter and a half of Analemma water per day for 3 months without changing anything else in the world. And what we saw at the end is almost every single person in the study experienced between 1 and 12 years of biological age regeneration.
Wow, 12 years. That's
Yeah, I mean,
insane.
that one person in the study was really much
Yeah.
older than
Oh, okay.
and interestingly, most of the people experienced between 1 and 2 years, and he was
Hmm.
much older than his chronological age, and yet, interestingly, which is super exciting, that these guys who are much older, they have the biggest result. Isn't that amazing? And even
Yes.
even people that were younger biologically than their chronological age, they actually even went younger. So anyhow,
Hmm.
it was really super interesting. But it just crossed my mind. I just have to share one thing, which is super cool. That's why I'm sharing. In that particular study, we told people to expose their NLM1 to the sun because
Mm.
water loves the sun. So when you're just exposing it to it, you're really giving it what it needs, what it wants, what it kind of brings it to life, so to speak, even though it's not necessary. But since we know that water loves it, we always say to people, expose it to the sun. Anyhow, one lady in the glycan age study, actually, she had this small, very small garden of very short plants. And she actually put her Analemma wand to the exact same spot in the middle of that garden. And for a month and a half, she kind of kept it there. And she sent me a photo of that garden. It's like you drew a circle around the place where she did it, and all the plants grew for like, I don't know, what like I know in centimeters, I'm in Europe. I don't know how many inches. So you can
Yeah.
literally see how exactly where the radius of effect, electromagnetic effect of an element, because it was just there, it was the wand was there, and not even for a long period of time, and the plants grew around it.
Amazing.
Yeah, I like picture it really is worth 1,000 words. It's just beautiful.
Yeah. Awesome. Where can we see all of this research? Is it on the
Mhm.
website?
Yeah. People can go to coherent-water.com.
Mhm.
Coherent, I always like to use that because it's very hard for people to spell analemma.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I was going to
so it's
ask, what does Analemma mean?
analemma
Mhm.
is actually a power symbol of the sun. When you
Ah,
take the photo of the sun from the same place in the earth for 365 days, you're going to get this infinity sign, and this infinity sign is called analemma. We realize that water changes electromagnetically every single day due to position of the earth towards the sun. That's why we
mhm.
called it Analemma. But people can go to coherent-water.com. It's very easy to spell. And, I invite people to jump on a newsletter if you want to follow our work because we're continuously doing new things. So if you just want to follow our work, you can do it that way. We have social media and anything. And if you want, of course, to purchase any of the products, you can do and you can actually get the benefit.
Perfect. Yeah. And you all gave me, my listeners, a discount code. I believe it's Healer Revolution, and that should give you a little bit of a discount.
Awesome. Awesome. This was
Yeah.
such a lovely, lovely time. Thank you
Yes. Thank
so
you so
much
much.
for giving me the opportunity. I love talking about this because, and I've did over, I don't know, I've 130, 40 podcasts up until now, but it never gets boring to me to just share because it's really amazing.
It is really amazing. I mean, I have not found or heard of anything else with this degree of promise for solving some of our most like big problems of the world, like with the soil and our disconnection to nature. I mean, thank you so much for all the work that you do and all of the effort that your company is putting in the projects. I'm excited about the future now, and I was kind of afraid of certain things.
Thank you, thank you, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much.
We are just following the impulse of the nature. So I'm super happy and God bless us all so that, this whole planet comes into this place of unison. We are going to see some chaos, most definitely
Mhm.
this short period of time, but I truly, truly believe that there is a huge light at the end of that tunnel.
Absolutely. Yes. All right, Mario, thank you. This has been wonderful, and thank you for everything that your company is doing. Thank you, everyone, for listening, and I will see you all later. Have a wonderful afternoon. Thank you, everyone. I am just so thrilled that you're listening to the Healer Revolution podcast. This has been a huge passion project for me and super therapeutic on top of that, helping me to use my voice and connect with other like-minded individuals. So if you're enjoying the podcast, please like and subscribe. Please share on social media or with your audience or friends or loved ones. I truly appreciate it. It does take a lot of time and financial costs to run the podcast, and it is not a moneymaker, let me tell you. So if you are enjoying this, I would truly appreciate your support just by sending me a post, a like, and a subscribe. Thank you so much.